What's going on, man? Thanks for coming by the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course, man. Why don't you tell people who you are?
So my name is Joe Vedder, and I am with Vedder Restoration Painting. We are a painting company that specializes in Wood Street and kind of craftsman turn-of-the-century homes here in Riverside and kind of the greater area, but Riverside's definitely our bread and butter. And we are 45 years family-owned and operated, and we love Riverside, and it's a place we're proud to be a part of and proud to service.
What school did you go to?
I went to Poly.
Oh, Poly guy over here. I was a king kid. What year did you graduate?
11.
God, the more I do these podcasts, the more I'm the oldest one on the podcast.
Right.
Like, you're like 11. I'm like, 05. Okay, great. Here we go. Yeah. I got Adrian. We need to get more old guys on here, man. Everyone I do now is like 21, 20. So obviously your uncle started the business back in 77.
Yes, sir.
What was like, do you obviously you weren't born yet, but the stories that were told, like, do you know like how like the idea came up? Was he already a painter and then he just transitioned into his own company? How did it all kind of get going?
Sure. So from what I understand, he was in the Air Force. So he was at March Air Force.
Nice.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So our family's originally from back east. We're from Pennsylvania.
What part?
Just outside of Pittsburgh, Monongahela.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Pittsburgh. It's
a
a great city.
Yeah.
This show is sponsored by Resilient Real Estate Group, powered by EXP. So, you're thinking about buying and selling soon? Yes, we know you probably know a realtor, your mom's best friend's cousin's neighbor, who puts her face on the local shopping cart. But you know what? Our friends at Resilient Real Estate Group have helped hundreds of thousands of people sell houses over the years, and they definitely know what they're doing based on their 5-star review on Google and Zillow. So, it doesn't matter if you're looking to buy $1 million house or a fixer-upper, make sure the next time you're thinking about buying and selling real estate, you give our friends a call over at Resilient Real Estate Group. And now we're back to the show. Great city. Small, it's big but small at the same time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's definitely not big by like California standards or like an LA type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure.
It's a different vibe. I was there one time for a wedding. One of my good friends got married out there, and I ended up staying. First time I ever did an Airbnb where I rented a room.
Yeah, right.
It was very interesting to rent a room with someone.
I bet.
And like I would talk to, they were like younger people. They were medical students, and I was like, how do you rent a room to strangers? They're like, I don't know. They're like, we scope, like, she's like, I spent like a good 2-3 days on your Instagram and your Facebook,
right,
like before I approved it.
Sure.
And it was an interesting little, I would do it again. It was kind of nice, cheaper than normal.
Sure.
The house, like,
absolutely.
What's that hill that's right outside the city? You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not super familiar. No, I've only been back a couple of times.
So you don't go there that often then?
No, we don't go too often.
Oh, okay. So your uncle came out here for the Air Force.
So he's out of the service, and I know that he was always in and out of the trades. He was an electrician before, and I believe it was his neighbor that was a painter. And I think it just kind of worked out. He needed a job, and the guy needed an extra set of hands, and it kind of just developed into that. So he sort of took it and ran with it from there.
Do you know why you guys have really just focused on just like the wood streets and downtown and historic homes?
I know that there was a lot more of those, obviously, back in the day. You know what I mean? That was sort of what it was like. But it was just the detail that goes into those, and there's so much opportunity to be unique and to play around with the colors. He started off doing a lot of the Victorian homes, so it wouldn't be super uncommon for him to do 10 or 11 colors on a house.
Yeah.
So that color scheme and that artistry sort of working together with the trade was sort of unique to that, as opposed to maybe just a stucco home or
stucco home, you just blast it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think people realize the how when you paint a house that's just stucco and it's one color, it's like the quickest. You just blast it. If it's like, if the materials go, just go in, gun it, and be done.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Tape, gun, done. That's really what it is.
For sure. So there's a million different ways to do any sort of trade. You know what I mean? There's commercial, there's residential, and this has just sort of been our niche, and it's what we're known for, and it's a lot of love. So it's not uncommon for us to do maybe 12 to 15 houses a year, but we're maybe at the house for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll do smaller
because there's so
stuff
much detail that goes into them.
Exactly.
Do you guys struggle with like a lot of clients that hit us up when they want to come and like move in downtown? They don't realize there's like an historic district and there's anything you get done has to be approved and things like that. Is that something that kind of is a little bit of a snag sometimes for you guys when it comes to painting?
Not too much. Most of the people that we work with are pretty on board with that, and we try and be mindful when people are getting their houses painted. You know, this is kind of what fits with your house, and we don't do a lot of blow and go work, or you know what I mean, to sell houses, things like that. Most of the people we get are in there sort of for the long haul.
For sure.
So they have a sort of a better understanding.
There's just not a lot of turnover. You know what I mean?
Not a lot of turnover
I think
at all,
people
no.
forget in the IE. You know, I have buddies that live in like Temecula and Murrieta, and like even take Eastville. I'm like, dude, when I was a kid, that wasn't even a city.
Right.
Like we don't realize, like, dude, Riverside's like there's like third generations here.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there's people here. I know people that have lived in the same house that it was their grandparents' house and then their parents' house, and now they're living in there, and it's like it's crazy.
No, absolutely it is, and it becomes sort of a living, breathing thing of its own. You know what I mean? And there's just so much cool, unique stuff that just isn't in newer homes.
Yeah, I actually don't like selling them. I don't like
Oh,
selling. No, I don't like selling them for two reasons. One, there's always, like, obviously it's an older home, so there's always some quirks to it, right?
Sure,
One,
sure.
Two, there's always something unpermitted every single time. I swear,
Right,
every time.
right.
And then three, so many people just want to come and look
Mm-hmm.
because they're like, oh, I've never seen this house. I've driven past it a million times. I love the outside of it. I wanted to see the inside of it. So you get a lot of like just more like the looky-loos.
on
Yeah.
that, yeah.
I mean, because there's some sweet homes in downtown Riverside and in the Wood Streets.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of really, really cool homes, and they're all unique.
Yeah, they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little different than Orange Crest. Cause did you grow up? Where did you grow up in?
I grew up right off of Brockton, so I grew up in the Wood Streets, right by Central Middle School.
Okay.
Over there.
Yeah. See, I grew up in Orange Crest. My parents moved up there in I think '90 it was.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's weird. I started dating a girl. What year was this? Sorry if she definitely doesn't watch this. It was like 2011, and I remember she lived in downtown with her mom, and I remember like being like, I've never even been in a house this old before.
Right.
Like I just grew up in Orange Crest. Like we lived in tract homes.
Right. It's definitely an acquired taste. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It is not for everybody, and like you said, for the reason they have a personality. You
They
know what
do.
I mean? With the quirks, and
They have
it's
the
not,
smallest closets ever.
So yeah, it's
It
really
literally
funny
the
to see,
small.
for sure.
Just be prepared for the smallest closets.
Right. Four
You-
shirts and a pair of shoes.
Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
done.
Like
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
looking for a huge walk-in, unless the house has been remodeled, like
It's
it does
there.
not have it.
No, absolutely not. And that's more for the times where the bedrooms were small, but the living rooms were big,
Were
because
huge,
that's
yeah.
where
Everyone hung
everyone's
out.
there. Right. No one was in their rooms all the time. You know, it's just different. But it's definitely an acquired taste. And if it's something you like, you have a lifetime of work there.
For
and, you
sure.
know, and it's pretty cool because you'll run across, we're at a house right now that's 101 years old. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know? So it feels like we're kind of putting our stamp and we're contributing to the preservation of our city. And I think that's what's so unique about Riverside is, other than like LA, you see Riverside bells everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone's proud to be from Riverside. You know, that's here. You know, it has people have a lot of love for it, so it gives us a lot of pride.
I think it's
to help
super
that.
super generational here.
Very generational.
It's very
which is pretty
generational
cool.
here. You know what I mean? Like I think like I said, it's like it has a different vibe than other cities. They're just not as old.
Right.
Like
yeah,
we
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
It's
we
the
kind of
age.
forget how old this town actually is.
Yeah,
and then we
absolutely.
forget how big it is.
Mhm.
It's a huge town. I think we have more people here than in Pittsburgh. I think the population is more
If
in
not, it's
Riverside.
gotta be close,
It's close, yeah. So for you, like, you know, obviously a lot of people have family businesses and the kids don't always go into it. So what made you draw into the painting aspect of, you know, working with your dad?
You know, it was something we kind of make a joke that I was born on the job site. It was every summer since I was little, and it was just my dad and I are super close.
Mm-hmm.
So, the initial appeal, no matter what it was, the attraction first and foremost was being with my dad, and I grew to love it, and I grew to have a lot of pride in that. People were, oh man, your dad does this or does that.
Yeah.
And it made me feel good, you know, and made me want to contribute to his legacy, I guess, if you would call it that. But then as I got older, I got to see kind of the artistry and the creativeness that you can sort of put into that. And it's really fun to work with different people. You know what I mean? There's all different sorts of people.
There's some
and,
definitely different people in the
right,
Wood
yeah,
Streets.
no, for sure.
Yeah.
So definitely people like the houses will have their quirks, but it was just a lot of really cool moving parts that drew me into it. And this is actually, I was a school teacher for a few years before.
Oh, really?
So I would always work every summer with my dad, and my plan was eventually just to get my license and maybe do a house or two a year. You know what I mean? On the
Yeah,
summers.
just a little summer gig.
Right. And then with COVID, kind of like everybody else, it kind of had that time to sit and reflect and sort of look at what's important. And so, you know, as I would write these things out or, you know, try and give myself the space to do that, being around my dad really pulled on my heart, you know, to get that time, because we have such a finite amount of time with people,
and we never know when
lives.
it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was something I was really happy to do, and I kind of figured life was too short not to do something I didn't really, really love.
Yeah, and so you didn't really like teaching?
I liked it, but I didn't love it, to be honest, you know. I really like that.
Hey, listen, I think it's better to know and get out than to be miserable and stay.
Because how many, you see that in every profession, people that are burnt out, and it's like, dude, why are you doing this?
Yeah, exactly.
It radiates off of you that you're unhappy to do it, you know?
And it's not that's not easy work.
No, absolutely not.
Especially nowadays.
Absolutely not.
Actually, yesterday, I did a podcast yesterday with my old high school teacher. And it was just crazy. He's been retired since 19.
Right on.
And we were just talking, and he was my coach and stuff. So we were just talking about like how times have changed as a teacher and how things are different. And, you know, he's been a teacher since the 80s. You know what I mean?
He's seen a few waves of things.
He's seen the waves, right? And so, but it's funny, we and him, I used to actually pour cement with him in the summertime.
Right on.
Yeah, so I would, because he lived right around the street from me, so he was my teacher every year, and he was my coach every year, and he was my neighbor. So to like make extra cash, I would pour cement with him. Worst thing ever in the world.
Yeah, that's a hard trade, man. That's a hard
Literally,
trade. Everything's
heavy. Everyone's on a time crunch. It's hot.
Start early.
You start super early. You're out there freaking scraping.
Yeah, that's a
and
hard
it might
trade.
not be. And when it sets, it sets. There's no going back.
Right? Yeah, no redos.
Like you
absolutely.
can wipe and repaint,
it,
but
sure,
dude, when that thing is solid, and then you walk away, and especially if you're trying to build something that wants the water to flow a certain way, it's very.
There's a lot to it.
No,
absolutely.
thank you.
Very unforgiving.
Yeah. So, what do you remember the moment you had to make the jump from teaching to full time with your dad?
Yeah, so it would have been the summer of 2020, and it was, instead of signing a contract to come back, you know, my intent to return in the fall, and it was something that I kind of talked a lot with my wife about, talked with my dad about. My dad was super good about, like, I'm not going to push you to do it. He's not one of those, you know, do this, do this. He's always left that door open, and he didn't push it on me. And so, which was nice. You know, I knew I had to support either way, because, of course, I don't want to disappoint him. Of course. All those things. And, you know, I was talking with my wife because it was a big change, you know, from having summers off and being home at 3:30 to working all the time. You know what I mean? And especially in those beginning stages of really trying to put in that groundwork for things that are going to pay off later.
That's the hard part. That's the thing I think that a lot of people fail is like, and I think we're going through that phase right now. Right. Is like a lot of in the business, like, I mean, on the business, not in the, whatever the saying is, on or in, like things that aren't making money right away, to get the ball rolling, to get that momentum, so then it'll pay off in the long run. Like those days, those are the hard days.
And it's a hard sell to my spouse, and to, you know, 100%. And because it's a big ask of her to say, hey, look, this is something I'd like to do. I'm kind of putting in that sweat equity. Yeah. And it's really a gamble. You know, I have a pretty good idea of where it's headed, but what if a lot could change, you know? And now it's, what if I got hurt at work? You know, and we went from being on my insurance to her insurance, and just kind of the logistics all the way around.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
30. Okay, so I'm 35. It is crazy the things that you do not think about when you're 18. Sure. You know what I mean? Absolutely. To now you're like, okay, what's my copay if I leave this job and you're insured? Like, it's things that like, I have stepkids, and I'm like, you don't even know yet. Right. Give me 14 more years. Call me when you're 30. Right. And we'll see what you're worried about today will matter. Yeah. No you know kidding. What I mean?
Yeah. It definitely changes and evolves, and I had people tell me those things, but it didn't click.
It doesn't click until you're facing the problem.
When I'm there, and I'm like, man, you know, like a copay is a perfect example of this. Yeah. What do you mean? Like, got to schedule an appointment, and I have to wait 3 weeks. Yeah. I want to come in today. Or, exactly. All of those things. So. No, for sure. So yeah, no, making that transition, you know, thankfully we've stayed consistently busy pretty much always.
That's the one good thing about Riverside.
Yeah.
Is when you get a brand name in this town, the town supports the name.
Absolutely.
And that's hard when you're tapping into this town. Like, I'm pretty new in this game. I think, 7 years? Okay. But it's like I'm competing against people that have been here since the 50s doing real estate. Right. So it's like, or their parents were realtors. Right. And it's like, how do you, but that's also the great thing about this town. Right. You make it 20, 30 years, you're kind of golden. Like you're at the point
Sure.
where it's like, you're marketing and stuff, but it's like such word of mouth. Like,
Absolutely.
and probably for you too. Like
word of mouth is 95% of our business.
Yeah.
In fact, that's something that I'm doing more of is the advertising side and, having Instagram and getting a website, having shirts and things like that just don't make sense to my dad because he's already so close to the end that he's 60 years old. Why would he start an Instagram when he doesn't need it?
Yeah.
So it's like making that transition. Those are areas that, well, that's a huge market, Dad, because
sure.
word of mouth is great.
It's a digital word of mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and it's even if a little bit of those worked out, well, it paid for itself once. You know what I mean? Those hours putting in on it, and it's, for sure.
I think the business now to be a business person is so difficult because like back in the day, it was like print marketing or yellow page calling or knocking on doors.
Right.
Now it's like, do I run Google ads? Do I run TikTok ads? Do I run YouTube ads? Do I do Instagram? Do I do a personal Instagram versus a business Instagram?
Yeah, exactly.
What works? Are we doing photos or reels today?
Right.
What music am I putting on my reel?
No,
Are we doing logos on this? You know what I mean?
For
It
sure.
is like a next level where it's like, oh, we just put an ad in the paper.
Right,
Or put an ad in the put an ad in the newspaper or put an ad in the yellow pages or not or mail out to a neighborhood or call it up through the phone book and people picked up the phone.
No, exactly. I picked up the phone. No, I'll just wait and see if they text me or leave a voicemail
exactly
for sure.
I know, man. It's definitely so. It's probably a little bit difficult for you to try to explain these aspects to your dad.
It's a bit of a harder sell. You know what I mean? He doesn't see because I'll show him reels and things like that, and a lot of it is kind of silly because it's it's a certain, like you said, a certain song, or you're doing a certain audio while you're showing this thing, and it's like, well, why don't I just show them that I'm good at painting and that'll work? And it's like, well, it doesn't quite work that way.
And that's the crazy part too. That's something I struggle with. I'm like, but like we are working on right now like a 44 touch campaign to past clients. I've never mailed to past clients on a regular basis or sent them gifts or whatever. We did our first Christmas gifts this year and they did really well actually.
Right on.
But I'm like, but I did a good job. Isn't that enough? No, it's not enough anymore.
Yeah, no,
being good isn't enough anymore. There's
Right.
too much. You're competing against too many people now. You're competing against.
Absolutely. There's a lot of noise.
You're competing against Orange County people now.
Yeah,
Temecula
absolutely.
painters. You're competing against everyone. It's hard.
You'll see people from out of state, and you'll see stuff online, and people think that that's what it is, and there's that sort of disconnect. And I'll get people like, "Hey, can you come do this?" And I'm making that transition into doing things just outside of Wood Street stuff, just as to be more broad, but people don't understand, well, why would it cost this? Or I don't want to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of work is just blow and go. I want you here. We're now.
Yeah.
I want you here today and be gone tomorrow. And it's like, well, actually we're booked up for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And the people that are willing to wait will wait. But we do lose some of that being a niche thing. Yeah. You lose out a little bit on some of those other opportunities.
But then do you get more because you're so niched is the question.
For sure. No, absolutely. I do think that without, putting other people down at all, we do things that a lot of people can't do or don't do. Yeah. The prep work is really, really what sets us apart. It's a lot of elbow grease. It's on a 100-year-old house we're getting 8 to 10 layers of paint off. Yeah. And, once it's down to that siding, are you going to just slap some caulking in there? Are you going to take those boards out and replace it? And that's where the restoration part comes in. All that is time and all that is money. So it's how far down the rabbit hole are you willing to go?
And I think that the older homes, you can tell the worse work shows more.
For sure.
Because there's so much more... I don't even want to know what the word is, but so much more work went into those houses, more character went into those houses. So it's like, if you throw cheap work on there, you will be noticed so much more.
Right.
Than like a track home.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
You're a Honda pulling up in a parking lot full of Ferraris. That's going to stand out.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever it is. And just material and product as a whole, quality has gone down because it went from, okay, we're going to build this one house this year to we need to knock out 50 houses this year for this track. It's just different.
It's just different for sure. And then obviously, like, we have 30 new houses we're developing. I'm not developing, I'm selling them. And it's like just trying to get product. We're still like, even though COVID's over or whatever, we're still dealing with trying to get certain
A lot
things
of residual
still.
stuff for sure.
It's hard.
It is hard.
Did you guys struggle with that during COVID or 2021? Like getting things, and was there a slowdown in the production
There was absolutely
of paint?
a slowdown, a huge slowdown, and we would.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
It was just more phone calls. So we pretty much use exclusively Sherwin-Williams product, and we have sort of our home store, and they would always sort of take care of that. But now it's maybe we're having to go to Moreno Valley, San Bernardino, you know what I mean? Making those drives and things like that. So I can't think of a time where it was like, hey, we don't have it. It was like you might just have to drive an hour to go get it.
Yeah.
So
did you is it just you and your dad? How many employees do you guys have?
So we are kind of rebuilding, I guess you'd say, right now, and there are 4 of us, but we'll run anywhere, including my dad now, between 4 and 6 or 8 guys, depending on kind of how things are going.
Do you like having one project at a time? Is that kind of your MO?
Typically, we're one project at a time. We do a lot of work with a company called Tate Cabinetry, and they do a lot of kitchen remodel, really, really nice stuff. So we do a lot of interior work with them, kitchens, bathrooms, sort of inside stuff. So we might go, my dad and the guys are down here, and I'm up there painting a bathroom.
Got it.
But if we're on more than one project, it's either my dad or myself on one of them.
For you, like, is the plan to sooner or later check out of actually the day-to-day painting and maybe run a company more and take this to a bigger scale? Or is the goal more or less trying to keep it kind of mom-pop style? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I would love to get bigger, and I'd love to be more hands-off, and I'd really like to kind of take it to the moon to see what I could do with it. You know what I mean? I'm in such a unique spot to where a lot of the legwork was done for me. It's not like,
dude,
all right, I need to go figure out what a paintbrush is. Or, you know what I mean? I had a lot, the ground was already
Thank you for
set.
saying that, dude.
Sure.
I get so frustrated with people who hop into their family businesses. And in any aspect, it doesn't matter what it is. Even I know real estate, that's what I do, but it's like you have that book of business, you already have the name and the momentum,
right?
You know what I mean? It's like it's already there.
Years, for sure.
Years of momentum. I think is very underestimated.
Absolutely,
momentum is when your company has momentum and you have word of mouth, and you know you kind of have the energy of like, oh, we're 6 months out, and you know you're always out and about working and people are seeing you, especially in the wood streets or downtown. It's like, well, shoot, my neighbor's house is nicely painted. Right. I like them. I want to get mine painted.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And that's for sure. That's our biggest driving factor is our jobs get us more work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I really try and do that. But I would be silly to say, and I definitely see people that do that. I wouldn't be paying homage to my dad and my uncle if I didn't say that, hey, you guys put me in a really, really good spot. So what can I do to honor that? I would like to get a little bigger for sure.
Be able to take on 2 houses 1 month.
Sure. But quality goes down.
100%.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'd have to really find a couple of guys that I could have trust to do those sort of things. You know, I would love to build up a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd really love to get a younger guy in there and sort of, hey, man, like this is something that's been really good to my family and I, and it's something nobody can take away from you, those set of skills, you know? So, yeah, I would like to get bigger and sort of just see what I could do. So when it was all said and done, I would say, hey, you know, I gave it my best.
Yeah, I took it to like the next level. Kind of like your era.
Yeah, absolutely, my era. And I have a son, and so I would like to have this be an option for him.
For sure.
You know, I'd love for him to do anything that he wants to do. And, you know, I went to school. I got a bachelor's, got a master's. My wife has a bachelor's degree. She's a nurse. So it's like he really doesn't have an out. You know, he has a lot of really good examples of things that he can do. So I'd love to get it as good as I could get it. So if that's something he wanted to do, I could hand him something.
Pass it over.
As good as it could be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Now, I think that's like legacy and all those kind of things. It's, I think as a parent, your goal is just try to make the life better for your kids one day.
No, absolutely, I mean? For sure.
For you, was your dad like, why are you going on a podcast talk about our painting company?
He was a little bit, but
Yeah.
he was also kind of excited, and excited for me in the sense that he's been in the newspaper a few times
Yeah.
and been on local television a few times. Back in the day, he painted the Heritage House.
Yeah.
So he got on the news for that. So that was sort of his stamp on it. So I kind of phrased it that way, and he thought it was something that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and he's like, so where'd I go to listen to it? And I'm like, well, it's on YouTube. He's like, well, I thought I'm listening to it. YouTube, so it's kind of that disconnect on that. But so yeah, he was excited for me.
Yeah.
Or for us.
It's just different how different it is now.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, it took my parents a long time. It took them years to, like, figure, like, why are you doing this? Why
Right.
do you have a camera guy? Why do you do podcasts with random strangers all the time? I'm like, you'll figure it out one day.
No, it's really, really cool. I had heard about you from my buddy Irvin Zayala.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a friend of mine from high school, and I saw that he was on it, and I thought, man, like, that's such a cool idea to highlight Riverside.
Yeah.
Because being a small business, you put a lot of lines out there, and you hope you get a bite on something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so even if it didn't generate more work, it's still something that, again, this is a city I
Yeah.
love and I'm proud of, and to see someone else have pride in it
Yeah.
and want to sort of uplift other people, I think is really
Well,
awesome.
and it's like we have the ability to do it. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like we have the space, we have the crew, we have these kind of things. And then, too, like, and I feel like I say this on every podcast now, so if you listen to every podcast, I'm sorry. But it's like, I truly believe that there's so many people that were like you in 2020. Like, I'm doing this. I don't love it. I have this option over here.
Right.
How do I make that jump?
Right.
And if everyone around you is telling you not to jump, sometimes you just need almost like the permission for someone to show you that it's possible.
Absolutely.
Like, and it's hard when we see like the big famous podcast. Those aspects are too big.
Sure.
It's too big.
And it doesn't seem, there's the disconnect in the sense that
Yes.
it's like, well, when Kevin Hart says, hey, get up and do this. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
well, I don't feel like I'm Kevin Hart. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I feel like, whoa, that's another small business, and that's something
Mm-hmm.
relatable, and seems like if they did it, I can do it.
Exactly. I
You
think
know
the
what I mean?
scale, I think our goal has always been is to bring the scale that it is available for the normal person to be like, I could do the same thing.
Absolutely.
And that's like, I think the main goal of the podcast is that, because it's like, there's no reason I should have this office.
Right.
I should be a janitor, to be honest. I
Right.
barely graduated high school.
Right.
There's, on paper, I should not be here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, or like maybe way back when your uncle started in 1977, like, you know what I mean? If he could, like, if he didn't believe in himself
Right.
that he could do it, then you wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
You know
no,
what I mean?
absolutely,
So I
absolutely.
think it's like our goal should be just to motivate the people that are right on the fence.
For sure.
You
And
know?
I think like you said, giving it permission, because I think a lot of people, and I know myself included, sometimes you don't even share those things with people because you feel you don't want to either get
You don't want to get
laughed
pushed
at
back or
or
I know.
whatever, so it's like, wow, this is giving them maybe that opportunity to bring up that conversation, or life is so short
Yeah.
in that aspect, and if to get your gratification from your work, which is something you're at,
You're doing
a lot
at
of your
40
life,
hours
man.
a week
Right.
for a long time.
a long time. So it's crazy not to love it, and especially when I was put in a position by my parents, where I had options.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I did this because I had to. I had things available to me that gave me the space to decide. I got to pick. It didn't pick me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, wow, I wouldn't be doing everyone that came before me a service if I stayed in teaching when I wasn't happy doing it.
Yeah. And I think the other hard part is, too, with Instagram, obviously, we're really heavy on that stuff. It's like, all you see is, like, Ferrari and Bugattis and, like,
Right.
million-dollar houses. And it's
Right.
like, it's sometimes even hard for me to be like, is that fathomable? Like, could I reach that? I'm friends with guys that live in those kind of houses, and it's like, how do I? But it's like, hey, I live in the Wood Streets, and I have a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. I drive a nice, good car.
Right.
I make good money.
Right.
I live a good life.
Yeah.
That's also okay.
Absolutely,
You know what I
it
mean?
is.
But
Absolutely.
no one's flexing their new minivan that they just got,
Right.
but they're stoked to have it. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
And I
For
think
sure.
that's the downfall of social media is that like reality is a good life is not what is sexy online.
Sure.
When it's like really good life to still live.
No, absolutely. And then you're spending your valuable time being unhappy.
Exactly.
Or maybe, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Looking at what that other person has isn't going to add. You can use it to motivate.
Motivation.
Sure.
Yes.
But, to get hung up on, like you said, that either material possession or it'd be a lot of stress to have a $10,000 a month mortgage or, whatever, a really expensive
Well, that's
house
like
would
people
be.
say,
You know what I
like,
mean? It'd be
people,
a lot.
I want to do what you do. I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, this place is $20-something thousand a month.
Right.
And they're like, what? And I go, yeah.
That's
and
a lot of stress.
And it doesn't stop.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the market's doing. It doesn't matter if deals fall apart. At the end of the day, the
Every
first of the
30
month,
days, right.
the first of the month, payroll's coming up,
Right.
rent's coming up for the office, rent's coming up for my house,
Right.
and before you know it, taxes are due.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's something that, going back to what we're talking about, like when you're a kid, like unless you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
then you just don't realize, what actually comes with everything. So for you, like, what was something that you didn't notice or had to pay attention to or whatever before going into the company with your dad that you're like, oh, I didn't know he did this, or I didn't know this was a normal, common problem that we have to face on a regular basis?
Sure.
What was kind of like oh crap, I didn't know about this?
No, right. I know that's a really good question. I guess I would just say sort of everything is on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're the first one and the last one to get paid, and everyone's problems and everyone's good days and everything funnels through you. So not only are you having to be the peacemaker at work, keep your employees happy,
Yeah.
keep the customer happy. So I would just say it was maybe how many moving parts there are in sort of how far you have to think ahead. It's not like, okay, I'm done with this job. Let me call the next person and see if they're ready. It's like, well, what if they're not ready? Okay, what am I going to do to fill that week and a half? Or, you know what I mean?
And then you have staff.
Right.
You have painters.
Right.
So then you feel like, well, I can't just say, like, sorry, guys, you're not coming to work this week.
Right, who's going to want to come work for us if it's like, hey, I don't know if, Joe and Gary are going to work this week.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, I can't. They can't build their lives around that. You know what I mean? So we have, whatever, 5 guys, but they have a wife and kids. So you're responsible in some way, shape, or form for 50 people.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's a lot of stress, or it can be a lot of stress, So I guess I would just say it's the fighting every battle to win that war kind of constantly, I would say, was the sort of, oh man, I didn't realize it's always on.
Yeah.
Always.
Is your dad, especially as a kid and now before you got into, is your dad very good at hiding the stress, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. As a kid, I definitely didn't see it.
Yeah.
As an adult and as our, relationship progressed, he would
Opened up a little bit more.
Opened up
Yeah,
about
yeah.
those things. But yeah, no, he definitely put on that everything's good front all the time.
I think that's like the dad thing you have to do.
It's
like,
insane.
It's literally like, I think dads, obviously, moms out there, you got a lot, but I think dads have to hold it in so much that
Sure.
everything's okay.
Right.
I'm okay. Work's okay. Everything's okay. When it's like, okay, this is going south. This is going south. We don't have paint. This person canceled. How do we move to someone else? This guy
Right.
didn't show up. Now we got to find someone else,
Right.
And you're like, everything's great, babe.
Yeah, no,
especially
for
for
sure.
you probably because you made that jump.
Right.
So you're like, I don't want to come back to my wife after I just made
sucks.
this big,
Yeah.
I hate this.
Right,
This is
right.
awful. I should have
For
stayed as
sure.
a teacher. Was there any moment where you thought like, dang, I should have stayed as a teacher?
I could say that maybe there were moments where it was like, man, this is hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Am I going to be able to
Mentally or
keep
physically?
this pace? I would say more mentally.
Yeah.
As far as just kind of trying to keep everyone happy, and I would say a lot of the pressure I put was internal.
Oh, for sure.
Hey, I really want to show my dad that this is a good opportunity because he could have retired already. If I would have stayed teaching, he would have been done.
Yeah.
But he's easing me into this, and it's obviously he's still getting paid and
Yeah, of
making
course,
money,
of
but
course.
it's like he could have been done.
Yeah.
And so he's been in the trade this year 40 years. So there was times where I would feel maybe a little guilty, like, man, I should just let my dad go and figure it out for myself. You know what I mean? Whatever it is.
But he would probably
No way
he
would he
wouldn't
wanna
be
do
able to
that, for sure.
He would never be able to let that go.
No,
you
for
know what I
sure,
mean?
for sure.
He'd be calling you every day anyways.
Yeah,
like,
no,
hey
absolutely,
son, what's you know what I mean? Like
Right.
randomly driving by jobs,
Right,
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, no,
Dad, go
absolutely.
home.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
thought,
yeah.
I was in the area. I thought I'd check on and see
no
what you guys were up
kidding,
to.
No, for sure. But I guess I would say those moments would just be to kind of trust the process.
Yeah.
In the sense that I'm putting in stuff now, so it'll pay off later.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always pay off monetarily, maybe it just is less stress or
For
easier
sure.
on your body, or it's smoother. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Things like that don't maybe necessarily reflect in my bank account, but I feel better.
Yeah, energy.
And yeah, energy.
Less
just,
stress.
for
and
sure.
More automation. Not automation where it's like, but it's like, oh, this goes next and da. I think that's something that older businesses don't have as much. Like for us, it's like, okay, when this happens and XYZ, like there's a checklist. This, and this happens. It's on a computer. Everyone can see it. This is what we do
Right.
next. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and yes, that doesn't financially make us any more money, but at least it takes away less phone calls
Right.
and less, you know what I mean? It's one of those
Keeps
things.
morale up and
Keeps
everything.
morale
right.
up.
No,
That's the
absolutely.
thing too. That's very difficult is morale. I don't,
Right.
you know, and when someone, I feel like as an owner, you have to check your personal life at
For
the
sure,
door.
for sure.
And not all employees check themselves at the door. So
Right.
now you're dealing with their problems and
Right.
it's-
Yeah. No. And I think you said it perfectly. Saving face. You know what I mean? Because I set the tempo for the day.
Yes.
Attitude. If I'm a negative guy or I'm picking out this or man,
Yeah.
you know, I make it a point where I'm not voicing frustrations maybe that I'm having with my dad or with the customer or whatever, you know, just regular things.
And then
but
having
like,
to balance how that person has to hear it in a
Right.
correct way where you do not feel, they don't feel like you're attacking them.
Right.
And you're just trying to get your point across
Right.
to get the product done in the way that you want to get it done.
Right. No,
you know?
absolutely. And, you know, I know that people care a lot about their homes.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to make it a point that they're happy before I leave, because
100%.
that word of mouth is going to come up, whether it's, man, this house looks really nice. But if we didn't end on a good note, yeah, but look at this, or man, that Joe's a real jerk. And now that word of mouth is going to go around no matter what. So I want it to be something positive.
Dude, that is
You know
the
what I mean?
worst when something goes wrong that's not your fault, and now
Right.
you're having to spiral, try to fix it, and they're mad at you just because you're the face.
Right. No, absolutely.
You're the point of contact.
Absolutely. And we're a finished trade. So when we do stuff, interior work, and it was a kitchen remodel, there's things that maybe you didn't notice before with the drywall or the
Yeah.
baseboard was on there weird or whatever. But now that we painted it and it's getting highlighted, well, was that scratch always there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have to be diligent to say, hey, you know, we're doing everything to protect this, but also it's all going to come down on me.
That is your fault.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now every little niche or thing that they had with any other trade, now it's going to
It
come
falls
on
back
us.
on you
And
because you're the last one
we're
there.
the last one there.
Yeah.
So, you know, the cleaning and everything like that, any scratch on the floor, you did it
Yeah.
because you're here and there's a scratch, so it must have been you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so just things like that, you know, being aware of, I'd say.
Aware of.
Mhm.
Is there any? Obviously, you guys are kind of small, but like, is there anything new, like technology-wise, you've added to the company to kind of smooth things up a little bit, or just more like on the marketing side?
I would say just primarily on the marketing side. Instagram's been really cool, and it's
Because people love old houses, man.
for sure they do, and it's kind of coming back in style, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
You know, I see more people buying houses that are closer to my age than, you know,
Especially
they're
like
not 60
mid-century
years old.
moderns.
Right. Yeah, like it's
Mid-century modern is the look now.
right. And since it's the look and people are, you know, going to be willing to pay
Yeah.
for those things, you know, so it's like those are people that are on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, when we'll get people that are, you know, little old ladies that call, well, you know, you guys painted my house 35 years ago and I found your name in the phone book. I hear that every once in a while. You know what I
Really?
mean? Like that was their means to get to
Yeah.
us was the phone book. So, it's, you know, we have our name there still. And
Is there still a phone book?
I don't know. I know you could look us up in the yellow pages or whatever. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, yeah,
I think there's a digital. I know there's a
There's gotta
digital
be a
yellow,
digital one,
but
yeah,
like,
for sure.
I mean, it's Google.
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, like, it's crazy. Honestly, something I've always thought about, especially in downtown and in the wood streets. I wish, like, it sucks. The one thing that does suck about older areas is it goes like nice house, bad house, bad
Sure,
house, nice
sure.
house. I wish someone would just come in and like, your house sucks. Okay, we're gonna sell it, fix it, and make every house in downtown and in the wood streets and like
Up to par.
up to
For
the
sure.
standard that the house should have,
Absolutely.
because that would just bring up like
everything. Absolutely.
everything.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if downtown, because you think about it, like with this area, where do you go buy? Literally, the one thing Riverside has that most people don't realize, like, where in the Inland Empire do you go buy a 1910 house?
Right.
Where do you buy a
Yeah.
where do you buy a 1920 Craftsman?
sure, for
There's
sure.
not there's really no other options.
Absolutely.
I'm actually surprised new builders, I mean, and we work with developers, but it's like I'm surprised developers have never tried to like go back that way. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure, for sure.
Instead of building boxes, building like, hey, you know,
Right.
the style of
That'd
homes
be
that
really
have,
cool.
right?
That'd be really, really cool.
Brand new houses, but look like their old ones.
Yeah, that the best of both worlds. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And no, like you said, and it only takes a couple of those houses before the street kind of looks
Yeah.
like, man, you know.
And then that brings down value, and then people that want to
Absolutely
move
does.
in don't want to move in because of those, and then, you know, it's
for sure. And
or some bad flippers will come in and buy up something
Right.
and do some really bad work to it.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
And then just ruin the house that way.
Yeah, no, it is really hard. And yeah, we'll get that sometimes when people will have a really cool old fireplace and they'll paint it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just things like that. Or they'll put tile over the original hardwood. Or, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, no, like, people would kill to have that.
I know, right?
Just getting rid of it.
The original hard floors that people put stuff over is madness.
It's insanity. And then
They
the
just
floor
sand
you
it.
take up, you're like, what is this?
Yeah, sand it and just
Yeah, for
seal
sure.
it, make it look beautiful.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
it's a labor
original
of love,
wood,
for sure.
original wood floors is literally probably one of the biggest sellers in any old home is original wood floors.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like when I walk in, I want original wood floors.
Right.
That's why I'm there.
Because if you're in this area, this is already appealing to you.
Exactly.
So you want the
I want
best
everything.
of the
I just
original
hate the
things.
windows. Single pane windows are
Right.
the worst. We have single pane in this building, and
Yeah.
it is like, when the summertime it's hot,
Yes.
and in the wintertime it is very, very cold.
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
the single pane windows,
It
you
just
don't
keeps the
realize
flies
that-
out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
For
rather
sure.
just have a screen.
Yeah,
like it
no
doesn't
kidding,
even
no
matter.
kidding.
So,
For sure.
what's the best way to people to get hold of you? Obviously, is it Instagram? Is it your phone number?
Yeah, so I have my phone number on our Instagram as well. So we are at Vedder Restoration. Would be the best way to get a hold of me. And I'm worst case scenario a day out, maybe on messages like that. And I always come out and do free estimates, and it's a free, and I like to be in person.
Yeah.
So we can walk through and we know we're looking at the same thing. And especially with the old houses, it's a lot of deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
The last guy put it off, and if you want this house to go this way in a positive direction, you're going to have to look at biting the bullet and kind of spending the money on that.
I love when we sell a house and it's been 20 years and they've never touched it. And then they're
Right.
like, oh, what are all these problems? Like, well, have you ever fixed this before? No. Have you ever done this before? No. You've never had a termite company out here? No.
Right.
So,
I just
well,
don't look at it. And the paint hides a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean?
dude.
You don't know what it's going to look like
It
until
is
the paint's off of it,
crazy
and it's like,
when
what's
termite-
holding this house up?
when termites go through
Yeah,
and
it's nuts.
you go after an inspection, it's like this, like and it's just a straight hole,
Yeah, it's
and you don't even
crazy.
realize that all the wood inside the paint have been eaten up.
Yeah, and the paint is the only thing
The
that's holding all
only
that
thing that's
together.
holding it up.
Mm-hmm.
It is insane.
Yeah,
Until
no,
you've actually
absolutely.
seen it, it's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy, and that's one of the things that we will always stop what we're doing and point that out to the customer. And hey, we can kind of go one or two ways, and I
Yeah.
suggest that you push it forward this way to kind of honor the integrity of the house, and that's where we're really
Sooner or
lucky
later,
is
sooner or
someone's
later-
going to have to do it.
Sooner or later, you're paying for it.
Right, absolutely.
I want everyone to realize this. You're going to pay for it yourself, or when you go to sell it, you're going to give a credit or not going to sell your house as
Right.
much. That is what it is.
Absolutely.
You pay for it
Absolutely.
one way or another.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
no getting around it.
No, there's
there's
not.
no
Absolutely not.
nothing.
And it's always cheaper to do it right the first time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so that's something that we're really lucky with. That's what we sort of built our name
Yeah, yeah.
around, is so we don't really have to sell it as much to the customers,
Yeah.
because they know what they're going to get when they see a Vedder paint job. And, you know, we're going to show up and we're going to be clean, and you're going to leave with something that's really crisp and really clean. And a lot of times a good paint job is things that you don't notice, but you notice it goes together really well.
Yeah.
You know, it's not choppy when you look at it. It flows, and it sort of honors the time with your twist on it, whether
Yes.
that's colors or whatever, you know. So For sure.
They're, I used to never thought I'd live in an older home, but one day I will live in an older home for sure. I love it. I never realized how much didn't realize how much character they have and how much I like them, but I'll probably gut it and do all the upgrade things to it. Yeah. I like ending podcasts on this because it goes back to why we do this. What advice would you give someone who's on the fence of doing a career they don't like and are holding back from chasing something they do?
I would say that it's never going to be the quote unquote right time. So if you're waiting for your stars to align, they won't. You're going to have to make that happen. I would say prepare for the things that you know are coming and just brace for those kind of obstacles in the way. And, my uncle and my dad always say, tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Yeah.
And it's never going to be easy, but it'll be worth it. Anything that's worth having is going to be hard. So I would say jump in, and no matter what, if you fell on your face, you can look back and there won't be that what if. Did I try? Did I not? And it's good to you. And I think if you have children, it sets a good example to your kids that, hey, even if I failed, my son will be able to say, my dad tried his best and he followed something that made him happy. And, so it's such a short amount of time. I can't harp on that enough, and especially since having a baby, things sort of seem to just fly by. And he was this big yesterday. Now he's this big. Yeah. It's crazy. So it's too short. So I would say, just save some money. If you could save some money and take that plunge, man, it's worth it. Be open to all of that.
I think that's the biggest thing is it's way harder than you'll expect.
For sure.
Way more headaches and stress, but it is yours.
Absolutely.
And there is a different feeling when the company is yours.
Absolutely.
You put up with more.
Right.
You deal with more.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's your name on the company.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely,
everyone says you're crazy until it works out.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And that's we're really big on we live in the neighborhood that we work in.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see you around, and it's not Riverside Painting, it's Vedder Restoration. You know, so it's our name on it. So who's that attached to? Joe and Gary Vedder. So we're proud enough in what we do that that's our name on it. We're not hiding behind anything. You know
Makes
what I mean?
sense.
So it drives us to continue to do and be great.
Yeah. You know what, man? Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
it is so
Thank you.
hilarious since I started doing these more regular how we have no idea where we start in this conversation.
Right.
You even emailed me. You're like, what are we going to talk about? I have no idea. We'll figure out as we go.
Yeah.
And it is crazy the directions that get dropped. And I hope people listen to this, man. Obviously, it is easier said than done.
Sure.
And our goal is to show people that you have permission to take the risk and chase your dreams.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, thanks, man, for being on. If you are in the Wood Streets or in downtown Riverside, make sure you don't go cheap on rehabbing your house because it will cost you one way or another. Make sure you contact our friends over here. And until next time, guys, peace.